Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to give you a quick rundown of my top 10 Halloween games. Now, what does that mean for me? Well, when I think of Halloween, first off, I think of ghouls and goblins and haunts and hoots and all of the things that go into this holiday, right? Costumes and dress up, but also mythos and lore, sitting around watching scary movies in the fall season, one of my favorite seasons of all time. I think about both childhood memories of being with family and being with friends and sharing in the holiday spirit, and then also the more adult side of the world of the occult or the haunted. And so that's what I'm approaching with this list of games. Now, they're not all going to be family games. In fact, the vast majority of them are games that you might want to play with your older children who are sitting around waiting for people to knock on the door instead of walking from position to position trying to scrounge up as much candy as possible. By the way, if you have a Halloween candy gathering story, let me know in the comments down below, because I was one of those kids that went out with an entire, king-size pillowcase, started at like 5, ended at 10 once all the kids were already in bed. Let's just say I committed to my role to get candy. But the inspiration for this list wasn't just that Halloween was approaching, but also I was looking around this season and noticing just how many games were fitting into that world. Some games that have just recently arrived, and then also some games that are currently or have just been on the crowdfunding platform. Now, all the games that I am listing should to some degree be available to you. Not all of them, in fact, none of them are going to be behind the paywall of Kickstarter at the moment. However, I do want to start with 4 honorable mentions that just are competing to be on this list next year or the year after when they arrive to the backers who supported them. And then let's dive into the top 10. And don't worry, this is not going to be overly edited, overly fancy. In fact, I'm hanging out in a onesie. Like, let's just be straight. I'm about to go to bed. I want to get this filmed and share this list with you. Not all of them need to be fancy. This one's just me. So strap in and enjoy the show. I'm gonna stumble all over the place now, and I'm not even gonna cut it out. This is about as normal as I get. Okay, so my honorable mentions, the games that are on pre-order that kind of inspired this list in a lot of ways. Honorable mention number 1. Destinies Witchwood. I believe it's over on GameFound right now, but the reason this is incorporating in, and base game Destinies is not, is because this one is set in the world of, witches and the occult and that experience that Halloween is all about. Just in this prototype here, we've started journeying through, and already you see magic and spells and witches' brews and corn mazes that you're going through and all those things that scream fall to me. And so Destinies Witchwood is high on this list and will probably be on this top 10 list the next time it happens. But for now, if you want a copy of Destinies itself, which is an incredible app-driven game, it's a cooperative-ish game. You're exploring the world and finding out the puzzle kind of together, but only one of you will have your story completed. It is, I suppose, not a cooperative game at all in a sense, and at the same time, watching the tale unfold is pretty incredible. You're going to be playing the role of a character, you're going to be rolling dice to mitigate some of the decisions that you have or some of the stats that you're able to use, and your goal is to explore this world, interact and talk to people, go shopping for new gear, and slowly accomplish whatever your destiny is. So it is in the name, very fancy. We have Dreadful Meadows, and yeah, this is just Halloween. It just is, and I think it does a really good job at being Halloween. I am adding this to our collection once it comes in. It's a little abstract game. You're taking tiles, you're matching them up, you're trying to slowly grow and harvest the best patch of candy confectionery so that you can make the best possible concoction possible. If you like little abstracts, if you like tile laying, if you like pattern matching, this is what Dreadful Meadows is. It's similar in the vein to a lot of other games that are out there in the marketplace, but I think it's lovely. I think it does it well, and I've really enjoyed playing, even though I am absolutely garbage at it. I'm horrible at it. And part of this is just, I really do love the aesthetic, the artwork, the approach they've taken. It's really themed around fall, it's really themed around Halloween, but it's not terrifying. This is very much a family game that you could play with anyone that you would like. A game that is not a family game is going to be Black Mold. And I have that box upside down, which is common here on Quackalope, because I can't see it. You can. Black Mold, currently over on Kickstarter, both of these are. Black Mold is a game about, well, trying to escape this crypt that you've been locked into. You're a prisoner that's just recently been broken out, and there is mold everywhere. And this mold infects you and turns you into a living, breathing nightmare. And your goal is to work together with the rest of your team, holding your breath for every action sequence you have until you crawl your way out of this crypt or die screaming and turn into another abomination that's going to be hunting down the other people that are trying to crawl their way out of the crypt. The hold your breath mechanic is very interesting, is very cool. It's fun to do. It creates kind of a panic sense in you. And it's not a game about how long you can hold your breath, because there are stop gaps. There are things that keep you from doing it. But that pressure of extending for one more turn while you're like squinching down that last little breath of air works really well. It makes your brain think differently than you would assume. Under panic, under stress, under pressure, you have slower reaction times. Your brain takes longer to spurn up and figure out what's going on. And with everyone else around the table chatting and chipping and cheering away at you, it's pretty darn fun. So if that sounds interesting to you, if you want a game that has mechanics that I haven't seen any other game utilize and does them in a really interesting and really unique way, Black Mold, you should check out. And it fits Halloween because it's gross. And finally, just left Kickstarter, I believe, but there should be, presumably, a pre-order, a backorder kit. Harrow County, coming from the famed comic book Harrow County, coming from Off the Page Games, a publisher that does incredible work when it comes to translating comic books into the board game scene. They worked with Mind MGMT before to much acclaim. Harrow County is going to be a head-to-head, non-cooperative, entirely combative game where you're trying to use your asymmetric player powers to generate the actions that you need in order to hopefully accomplish whatever your goal is. Whether that's creating a line of haints that move from one area to another to try to rescue different people across the board, or creating storms that ravage the landscape, destroying the trees, destroying the houses, destroying the community. Or you could get up to Chapter 5, which unlocks a witch who comes back from the dead and slowly tries to smash together everyone to create bonfires for people to worship at. Needless to say, Harrow County is very much Halloween. The comic book is all about the occult and the ghouls and the goblins that might come out during this season, and Harrow County emulates that well. Not only do I recommend the board game, but I also highly recommend the comic book. I really, really enjoyed the comic book a lot. So, there's 4 games. 4 games that I think eventually could or will deserve to be on this list. The question is, what are they going to be knocking off? Because we're about to dive into the top 10, and the top 10 is full of some gems, but I shifted things around so that this is a Halloween list. I thought about this a lot. So, starting at the very back, it's going to be a little game called Arkham Horror. Arkham Horror, the card game, is going to be coming from Fantasy Flight. This is going to be a living card game instead of a collectible card game. What that means is every pack that is released is completely the same. So you're not trying to collect the cards. Instead, you're buying module after module, and you're going to be going through this story. You're going to be gaining cards. The wooden box doesn't necessitate, you don't have to have it with you, but it's a very nice addition to the game. You're going to be getting these packs of cards, and these cards are going to take you through a Cthulhu-based mythos world. So you'll be working cooperatively as a set of investigators with your own skill sets, your own deck of cards. It is a deck crafting game. That means you're going to be building your deck and customizing it as the game continues on. And the big selling point of this is that if you love Cthulhu, if you love that world and that universe, the haunts and the ghouls and the weird mystery kind of combined with lots of tentacles and outer space rituals, this does that probably better than most any other game. Arkham Horror is an insanely beloved game with a ton of available content and a lot of people love going through this as a cooperative experience. So it's here at number 10 because I think it's a remarkable game. It is not right for me, to be fair, which is why I personally have bumped it to the top of this list, but I don't think a Halloween list could or should exist without it in its at least consideration, because Arkham Horror really, really does the cooperative Cthulhu mythos world really well. So if that sounds like your speed, I am probably the person that's wrong on this, and all the other people, the tens and tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people that love this game, they're probably right. Moving on to my number 9. Number 9 is in this position not because the game in any way deserves to be at the back end of this list, but because I think the theme of it distances itself, too many it's in there, from being Halloween, except for some caveats. So, Unsettled, coming from Orange Nebula, this is a cooperative experience as well. You're working together to try to explore these vast different planetary systems, and each game comes with these boxed modules. So you'll be popping open a box here, working with this larger system to incorporate it in, and you're then going to be exploring planets. You're first trying to solve what the puzzle of the planet is, and then you're trying to solve for the puzzle itself. And sometimes you end up running out of time, you end up very crunched. Now, a lot of this is more sci-fi, space horror-based theme. Not quite Halloween, not quite fall. However, there are some scenarios where you're doing things like crawling across the floating head of a forgotten space deity that has been rotting and infected with putrid little pustules for eons. That, to me, kind of screams creepy Halloween. And a lot of this is that. A lot of this is creepy world and unsettling. And yet some of it is big ocean planets where you're exploring underneath the waves of a forgotten civilization, and that's not Halloween. So, with a strong caveat that not all of this is Halloween, but some of it certainly feels similar to Unsettled, is added to the list. Moving down to my number 8 is going to be underneath some boxes. So give me moments. Don't look at anything. No spoilers. You stop it. Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter is mixing in here because this is a post-apocalyptic survival game where you're working together with everyone around the table. That's what you do with cooperative games, but you're trying to survive, well, a post-apocalyptic winter. It's a bad deal, right? You're making decisions based off of what's good for the community and what's selfishly good for you. Now, Dead of Winter is famous not only for its horror and the shifts in sort of what happens from evening to evening or throughout the course of this game, but also there might be a traitor. And that kind of, to me, feels like we're getting closer to Halloween. The idea of someone in the shadows with a knife, or people making cryptic choices that you don't know if you can trust. And given that it's set in this post-apocalyptic setting, I think this probably makes a fantastic cooperative game night experience if you're looking for something that is still going to allow that one friend in the family to point at Aunt Susan and say, "You're a liar, Susan! I know you have that gun!" At least I think that's what you can do. So, Dead of Winter. Dead of Winter is added to the list. It is a game that I need to play more than I have. I will be 100% honest about that. I have not dove into this. I, in fact, have all the expansion packs downstairs, and I have not even yet opened them up. So, there's a lot more exploring to do, and it might rise higher in the list with more plays. But for now, I think it makes sense to pop this open on the 31st and look around at your friends and say, which one of you is going to be revealed for the villain? Okay, moving down to my number 7, and here we start getting closer and closer to the Halloween theme, Heart and Soul. I have a game called Sorcerer. Sorcerer is going to be coming from Wise Wizard Games, and this is a head-to-head combative deck crafting game, but deck crafting in a very unique way. Like I explained with Arkham Horror, you're putting together cards to create, well, the system that you're using. Well, what's unique about Sorcerer is here, you're taking 3 categories of a sorcerer that you might be: your personality, your background, and your type of magic. So you can be someone who controls spiders coming from a monastery who is also a female vampire, I suppose. And those 3 things merge into this type of combination, this type of deck that then is unique to yourself. You'll be battling over control of these giant creatures, trying to rip apart cities and fighting with each other as you do so. You want to be the dominating force at these different local provinces. So why is it here in Halloween? Well, obviously, we're working with magic and the occult and weird cryptic things that are coming back, but also, like I said, you can control flipping spiders. What? You can do blood magic. What more do you need? Like, this is, if you want to play a game that lets you be a sorcerer or be a sorceress or be a witch or play with the occult, Sorcerer's got you covered there. The artwork is gorgeous. The card play is incredibly solid. This comes from my personal game library. I'm looking forward to the next expansion coming soon. I got a chance to preview that, I guess, a year and a half ago or so, so it's got to be on the way sometime soon. But if you can find a copy of this and you like head-to-head combative card games, Sorcerer is going to be one of these Halloween picks without a question. By the way, if you all have any Halloween picks, let me know your thoughts as well, because there are plenty of games that I am sure I'm missing that should be obvious additions to this list. Moving down to number 6, a game that I have raved about for some time that is now actually available to you all, because I only talked about the prototype for the longest time, Mythic Mischief. Now, Mythic Mischief is up here at number 6 for 2 reasons. 1, because I always talk about it, and 2, because by its nature, it's an abstract game, which means the theming of Mythic Mischief, while it does fit into the Halloween-esque archetype, for me, doesn't entirely scream Halloween. You're playing with characters that are witches and wizards and ghouls and goblins and ghosts and other creatures, whatever they are. There's lots of different things. Zombies at a mythical school, kind of like Hogwarts, and you're trying to break into the library and move yourself around with all your different special powers and abilities so that you can hopefully direct the Tomekeeper in a way that captures your opponent but allows you to run free. That's the object of the game. And because the theme is abstracted, nature of an abstract game, a game that has mechanics over theme, it doesn't quite fit into Halloween for me. That's why it's not like number 2 on this list. Love Mythic Mischief. I'm actually really good at Mythic Mischief. It might be one of the reasons why I like it so much. It's an abstract puzzle that just kind of clicks with my brain. A lot of spatial reasoning, a lot of like short and long-term thinking, a lot of reactionary play based off of what your opponents have done, because they'll outmaneuver and outthink you every time, and you have to be ready to like catch them off guard as well. And this is now available. I don't know that they've done a lot of advertisement on it yet, but you can actually pick up copies of this for the first time in forever over on the Ivy Studios store. So, worth keeping in mind. If you like abstracts, if that's your genre of board game, Mythic Mischief should probably be on your shelf. Moving down to Maximum Apocalypse, the board game. Another cooperative game. There's like a theme of cooperative experiences when it comes to this Halloween list. And I think part of that is due to the nature of these type of games, because a lot of these are like survival, go up against the occult, go up against the apocalypse, go up against whatever threat you're facing and work together to overcome it. But also, in my mind, I guess I'm choosing a lot of games that fit in with that family mentality as well, because Halloween is one of those times, like, you do one of 2 things. You do one of 3 things. If you're young and not watching this video, you go party and drink and wear skimpy clothing. But if you're a child and also not watching this video, you go hunting for candy and wear really cool costumes. And if you're an adult and definitely watching this video, you stay at home and wait for the doorbell to ring or take your kids out to go find candy. You hand candy to the kids and then you come back inside to continue playing the game, which you're playing because you watched this video. You see how that all connects? And because it's cooperative, someone can take your turn while you're going, "Wow, Timmy, you just put on another mask and now you're coming back to get more buckets of candy. Or you can like watch your little Zoom call where someone takes the entire, I'm getting off on a tangent. Did any of you ever steal the whole bowl? It's such a bad thing to do. But if they've got full-size Snickers, like, can anyone blame you? You could still be blamed. It's definitely the wrong thing to do. I didn't actually ever do it. I was the kid that would like take one Snickers and then guard the bowl. I'd be like, don't you. I'd watch the other kids come up and he's like, those Snickers are for everyone. And then I'd be really upset when I came up to another bowl and all the candy was gone. Maximum Apocalypse. This is Legendary Edition. This sets you in the world of an apocalyptic event. You are dealing with the ghouls and the haunts that showed up after that. You can take any number of different character archetypes and you can journey through any number of different possible apocalyptic scenarios trying to survive. All of you have your own in-game objectives, so you're working together to make sure everyone can fulfill whatever their mission is. And this is one of those games that, again, I need to continue exploring more, but blew my mind when I first sat down and started playing it, because it opens the world of this what-if scenario really, really well. This is a ridiculously fun game. If you've ever wondered what happens if X happens, this game helps simulate that type of horrific thing. Similar in some ways to Fallout, the video game, like reminds me a lot in its essence of that. But Maximum Apocalypse is on this list, and if you haven't played it before, you should probably seek out. I mean, all these games are like that. You should seek out a copy. You just should. There's a lot of good things out there, but these are the games. If you like Halloween, if you like fall, these are the games you should be playing. I'm telling you, they'll make you like the season more. Moving down to number 4. A game that is very Halloween themed. This is like an old school Midwestern dungeon crawl. You're a family journeying into a cryptic haunted house. And I mean that. Like, it's like decorated like a haunted house. Like, not like the, ooh, scary house. This is like you're journeying into a house that is full of what I would think of in fall and Halloween. Like, it's pretty neat. So, if you like dungeon crawls, another cooperative experience, if you like dungeon crawls that take a really unique twist on that genre of game, this sets you in the world of a Midwestern town with a family of average Joes going into this house that has been written up for animal abuse and sacrifices and looking into the occult. And you're trying to figure out what's happening here. And you start journeying through this story. It's got great artwork. You start picking up items from around the room. You're using average things to go fight your way through all of the different like ferrets and weasels and nonsense that you run into. This is one of those dungeon crawls that if you just want like a good old sit down, play on Halloween, play the week of Halloween, play through the fall season, I can absolutely recommend The Ghost Betwixt. I'm still journeying through it myself. I want to see Endgame. I'm looking forward to continue diving down into it, but it's on that list. It's scarecrows, it's cornfields, it's the haunted house you always didn't go into when you were 4 or 8 or 29. Don't look at me like that. Moving down, number 3. Oh man. This might deserve to be at number 1, but I couldn't bring myself to put it there. Final Girl is number 3. If you don't have Final Girl, you're missing out. If you're a fan of horror movies and classic horror movies at that, if you love this fall haunted season and you don't have Final Girl, I don't even know what you're doing. That being said, if you're watching this, you probably already have the game. Why is it number 3 then? If it's such a no-brainer, it's because it's a solo-only experience, and I'm approaching this like someone who believes in community and families and Halloween parties and all that good stuff. And Final Girl is for those of you that are waiting at home for that knock on the door to give candy to the kids, and no one's there to play games with you because they all went out hunting for candy themselves, or the other member of your household took them out to a Halloween party, or you just don't want to see anyone, and so you turned off the lights and you're not actually handing out candy, you're eating the entire bucket yourself, and you're playing a game, which means you're having a really good night. Final Girl is there for you, which is probably more of my audience than I'd like to admit, because it's probably going to be me on Halloween too. Out of all these games, this is probably the one that I'm actually going to be diving into and I love it for it. Final Girl is going to set you in the world of a survival solo game where you are the final girl in the story. You're trying to survive the Freddie Mercury's knife. That's not the right person. Freddy Krueger. I think that's actually right. Did I get the, yeah. I don't know my horror as well as I should. You're trying to survive the nightmare that is befalling you with serial killers and various different types of abominations. There's a whole bird scenario where crows are falling from the sky, and if too many of them show up, they'll peck your eyes out. This sets you in that scene, trying to survive whatever is happening. You'll be exploring for items, you'll be upgrading your character, you'll be rolling dice, you'll be mitigating it with careful card play, and you might just get your throat slashed. But luckily for you, this is a fantastic, very accessible solo game, and you'll start another puzzle over because it's just that good. Moving down to number 2. Number 2 and number 1 was a big debate in my mind. I'm very confident with the decision that I've made, but it was a big debate in my mind. Number 2, another Cthulhu game, Cthulhu Death May Die. Another cooperative game too. I know there's a theme. I don't know what it is. Let me know some games that are non-cooperative Halloween-themed games that should be on this list. Cthulhu Death May Die. You are journeying into this dungeon crawl where your mission is to stop the cult or a cult from creating whatever it is they're creating, this machination to try to bring forth some great old one, which eventually does show up that you then need to rip the head off of. It escalates, it's insanely fun, tons of powers and abilities, lots of cool dice mitigation and dice rolling and dice manipulation and new items that you get. And on top of that, it's one of those games that gives you chapter by chapter or scenario by scenario new puzzles to solve. So there's always stories to continue diving through this until you've played it all, and then you might as well journey back through it anyway because it's just that lovely. Cthulhu Death May Die is absolutely one of my favorite dungeon crawl campaign style games. Where it falls on the list, I'd have to analyze a lot closer, but I don't know that I can speak too highly of how cool this game is. And one of the neatest parts is as you get more and more insane, your powers and abilities get bigger and stronger and more impressive. But the creatures that you're fighting also get stronger, bigger, and more of them are spawning all over the world until finally you're faced off with this giant tentacle swinging abomination and you've got a fist of iron that can punch its eye socket out. But it has teeth that can rip your throat off and one of you wins. Just depends on who hits first. My number one game for Halloween is Vagrantsong. Another cooperative game. I know, don't judge me. Don't you judge me. Vagrantsong is a game where you're going through a series of boss battling systems. Storybook game, lots of choice and interesting consequences based on the route you go down, but you're going to be taking the role of one of these various different vagrants traveling across a train, singing a song, maybe, I'm not sure, trying to restore humanity to the various different haints that you come across. And this screams Halloween out of its earthquakes. This game is just full of very interesting big boss combat sequences, really cool storytelling, and on top of that, it reminds me so much of things and TV shows that remind me of the fall season, stuff like Over the Garden Wall, for instance, that cryptic, that unique, that old style art, that, Betty Boop or like 1920s golden era style artwork brought up to a modern age, mixed in with that. We're traveling in the West, right? We're traveling in the West on this ghost train with haints of forgotten and lost souls that need their own puzzle to be brought back to life. Like, this is the type of game that comes alive when Halloween sets. It's what kids dream about as youth. The haints that are popping up in the gravestones and the ghosts of forgotten people coming back, trying to fulfill whatever their mission is, and you're working together to remind them of their humanity, of who they were, and not to swallow you in a giant skin suit and slowly consume your body until you become part of them and you're also a haunted haint eventually. It's a ghost-based game, and it's an amazing game, and it's a glorious game for Halloween. So that's my number one. Let me know what you've played. Let me know what you have. Let me know what you recommend. Let me know what I should be playing. If you can't tell, I like this theme. I like this world of Halloween and the haunts and the cryptic. Some of these are some of my favorite games, and they're my favorite games because of those stories that I remember, because the weird, twisted, uncomfortable things that they send my way. So, there you have it. There's a top 10 list. Not a fancy one. Not a cool, like, transition one. There's no popping. It's just this. It's you and me, and we're sitting here and we're talking, and at this point, it's kind of romantic, to be honest. You know, I've been thinking a lot about you lately, and I'm not as good at this type of communication, but I think it's time for us to maybe move our relationship to the next level. I know. It might be soon. We've only just had dinner and the evening is still young, but listen. There's a subscribe button down below, and it would mean the world to me if you take the time to double check and just make sure you're still subscribed to this channel. No. Don't say anything. Just gaze into my eyes for a moment on this night of all nights and recommit yourself to us, to this. Yeah, me too. You're too kind. No, you. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Now, let's do the important thing. Let's go play some games. Bye.